Today we're traveling on two wheels.
Welcome to Vacation Mavens, the podcast that brings you travel inspiration and practical tips from two moms who know how to plan the perfect trip.
I'm Tamara from Your Time to Fly.
And I'm Kim from Stuffed Suitcase. With over 40 years of travel experience between us, we're here to share our favorite destinations from road trips to cruising, theme parks, and European adventures.
Whether you're planning a family vacation or a mom getaway, we have the tips and tricks to make memories that will last a lifetime. So we're at the end of summer, and we're bringing back a guest that has been a friend of ours. She's an OG blogger from back in 2006. So we're happy to be joined by Sherry Ott from OttsWorld, and she focuses on adventure travel primarily for women. And then in 2018 started offering some small group tours for adventure travel, and now is doing some cat lady tours in Japan as well, which I'm super excited about because
She is
also
a foster
cat
cat mom.
Yeah. I love, if you follow Sherry for no other reason, like follow just to see the kittens that she will foster throughout the year, because
in between trips.
It brightens up my day. Welcome, Sherry. I'm really glad that you could join us.
Thank you so much. And I had to actually shut the kittens away because they're quite vocal.
I bet.
We wouldn't mind if they climbed up your shoulder.
I know. I was like,
So we wanted to bring you on because you do a ton of different adventure stuff, hiking, but I know that in the last few years you've been really into, I had some friends that have done like a biking trip through Ireland. I feel like it's a kind of a popular thing that people are interested in. And it's funny because I hear people like, oh, I want to bike through Tuscany. And I'm like, have you driven through Tuscany? Like, do you know what those roads look like and how narrow they are? But, there's a lot of good things about biking trips, and I just feel like you're the expert. So can you tell our listeners maybe a little bit about how you got into biking and a bit about your experience?
Oh, yeah. It is new to me, so I'm still learning too. And I think one of the things about being in this industry since 2006 for such a long time is constantly have to evolve. Otherwise, you get a little bored, just like with any job, right? So I used to cover a ton of hiking, and then the pandemic hit, and we were all stuck at home, and I had a crappy little bike, and it was my way to get out and explore Denver. I live in Denver, but I was never here. So this was like the first time that I was actually in one place here for a while. So that was my way to travel in a way in Denver during the pandemic. And I kept going further and further and I loved it more and more. The next year, the second year of the pandemic, I got a proper bike instead of the Facebook Marketplace bike. And that really changed things. I got a gravel bike that I absolutely loved, and it was even that much more comfortable. I could go further. And it was around that time that I decided I really like this. Long story, which I will try to shorten, is I decided to take on a new project that had to do with biking, because that would really get me immersed in this new hobby, really, that I liked. And that was to finish something my dad started when I was 14 years old. In 1984, my dad started walking from capital to capital in the United States. Don't know why. He wasn't that much of a walker. This was before Forrest Gump. It was before cell phones. And of course, as a 14-year-old, I was just mortified by the embarrassment that this would cause me, because he was weird and he wasn't like other people. So my mother was like his logistics person, and they did this for 20 or 30 years.
Did they have like an RV? Did she
No.
follow along? Oh.
No, she didn't even, she was the driver for sure, but they didn't have an RV. They would stay in little hotels in small towns, which I think was really fun for my mom. That was her way of traveling. And she would go ahead and get the hotel and figure out where to eat, and then she'd go out and bring him water or lunch. Over the course of about 20 or 30 years, he finished 23 capital route, walking about 5,000 miles, 4,000, 5,000 miles, roughly.
Insane.
I mean, we didn't really measure it either.
Yeah.
And then he stopped. He was in his early 80s probably when he did his last one.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that inspired you.
It did.
I remember following along when you did that. I know. What were your first where did you go to and from?
I finished one that he was in the middle of. Had about 5 or 6 that he was in the middle of, and then he had 26 total, 5 or 6 that he was in the middle of, and the rest were full routes that had to be done. So the first one I did was where they live in South Dakota. So I finished off, and he was in the middle of South Dakota, and I rode to Pierre, South Dakota. And then I went on from that one to do Pierre to Bismarck, North Dakota, because I was there. Yeah, so that was the first one. And because my parents lived there, I, on that first one, had them come. I stopped like a mile from the Capitol from my biking, and then they came and joined me, and the three of us
Oh,
walked in together
awesome.
to pass the torch in a way. It was more for me, I
Yeah.
think, than him.
Yeah.
So,
That's such a good story.
yeah.
That's so sweet.
Since then, I've finished 10 of the Capitol routes. I have 16 more to go and probably about 8,000 miles or so. Yeah.
And I feel
Yeah.
like I've seen you biking in other countries,
Oh,
like
yeah.
Chile, Prince Edward Island, maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
Good
yeah.
memory. Yeah. So once I started taking this up, this now opened up a whole new area of travel that I really had no experience in. Bike travel, whether that be like self-guided stuff or going on these group trips on bike travel. And so I started establishing myself as, hey, I'm a biker now,
Yeah.
and started working with different destinations and companies. So since then, I'm new to the bike travel world, but I have done quite a bit.
Yeah.
Patagonia, down in Patagonia by Torres del Paine National Park, we did e-biking. I just finished southern France, so a couple of European ones. You're right, I did PEI, which is a really great one for kind of beginners to bike travel. And you can easily go from village to village and stay. Yeah. And then
That's great.
there's a whole bunch of other little things that I've done probably on press trips and stuff with biking. But I think the big thing, and you said earlier, that it seems like this has increased, like the popularity has
Mhm.
grown. And I agree with you, but I think it's due to a couple of things. Maybe a little bit of the pandemic, because that was a big kind of biking boom at that time. But I think mostly it's because of e-bike.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love e-bikes. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
S-
So it just makes it more accessible to everyone.
Yeah, I agree. People are thinking of planning one of these kind of biking trips. I was just in Alaska, and at the hotel lodge we stayed in, there was a back roads
Uh,
van with a bunch of bikes on the top. So,
hmm
I know there's the guided trips like that where they provide everything. So, can you
hmm
give listeners an idea if they're considering starting or planning a biking trip? Maybe a couple of options, like how they could do it one way versus another way.
Meaning self-guided versus joining a group.
Yeah, like
Um,
where would they start with the planning? What
yeah.
should they look at?
I think there are tons of bike travel companies that run this stuff. So I always start with tourism boards and see what offerings they have. Do they have a long distance trail? PEI has a specific, I think it's called Independence Trail, and it's all set up around this idea that people are going to be stopping at hotels along the way. So one of the first places
Nice.
to start is always, if you know your destination that you want to go to, check in on the tourism board website and see what kind of things they offer. Maybe a very something very simple, like in Santiago, Chile, they offer a day tour through the vineyards where you can bike through the vineyards and stuff like that. So you can start little like that if you'd like. Then you can go to some of the bigger players. You mentioned Backroads. They're one of the really big ones. They're all over the world, basically. As far as the US goes, one of the nice places to start to just educate yourself about bike travel in general is the Adventure Cycling Association. They're actually based in Missoula, Montana, but they are a nonprofit that it really is what do I want to say? They are the people responsible for writing about and maintaining and promoting the cross country trails, basically. And there is not necessarily a trail that goes all the way across, but that's what they're trying to get to.
Right.
And they've been around for years and years, but they've got so much information on biking, bike travel, bike packing, group trips. They also run group trips. You can also get maps, like downloadable GPS maps from them for different
Yeah.
routes. So when I did the South Dakota to Bismarck, North Dakota, I actually used one of their well-known and documented routes because it was along the Lewis and Clark Trail. And they have a whole map series that goes the whole Lewis and Clark Trail and how you ride it. What that does, like I said, it's not necessarily a trail where it's like protected or something like that. You're
Hmm.
riding on roads, but at least you know that it's a popular route and people should be more used to seeing cyclists on the road.
Yeah.
So
Safety is
Yeah.
definitely
The Adventure Cycling Association is great. They're a great start. They also run some international tours too. That's where I learned a lot of stuff. I will say that. Um, in Europe, I would say one of the well-known biking companies is Experience Plus. I just did a tour with them in southern France. They're really well organized. It's a couple of sisters who run the company. They're from Italy. One lives in Colorado. So they've been at it a really long time. Their parents started it. So I like that kind of feel. Then there's a consolidator website like biketours.com. And that just all the different stuff out there, but you can book stuff through them too. And that's all over the world too. So those are some
Nice.
places I would start, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
What are some things you think people should look at? I feel like a lot of people would probably start with the group tours. Just makes it easier on the logistics standpoint.
Oh,
And like
yeah.
I know that Backroads is really known for like luxury hotels. Like I've run into them in a few places that I've been. But what are some other things that people could look at just in terms of factors they should consider when they're evaluating different vendors?
Well, I think the first thing is the bike fleet. Like, do they have e-bike? Are the bikes good? Are they new? And you can easily write any of these companies and ask about exactly the bikes. It's probably on their website, but they will most likely send you spec of those bikes.
But
So
you
I
don't want a
think
1985 like steel frame mountain bike.
no. Even like the old e-bike, the e-bike technology has changed so much. Those old e-bikes are heavy. The
So
batteries don't
heavy.
last as long. I would first kind of look at that. I would obviously look at any company's reviews. But then the other things to kind of consider, I would say, is obviously difficulty. Look at the elevations that you're climbing every day,
Oh, right.
which that can make it, even this, the one that I just did in southern France, I had a regular bike, not an e-bike, but the elevations we climbed, it kicked my butt. And I thought I was in shape. But then there were people with e-bikes just do, you know. I'm like, geez. Some other things to think about is if you're really attached to, say, your seat, your saddle, or you want to wear the clipless shoes. I don't know, they're called clipless, but those are the ones
The
that
ones
clip
that
in.
actually clip in. I know, I
hate
never
that.
will understand that.
I actually had a whole crying episode over that once because I'm like, this makes no sense.
My husband did triathlon, and I'm just like, that makes no sense.
Oh, but if so, to check, is this a company that allows you to bring some of your own thing? And will they help you install them? So I'm really attached to my bike computer. I love it. I don't use my phone. I have a little tiny bike computer. And then it connects with this radar detector behind me. So it indicates to me on my computer if there's a car behind me and how
wow.
fast they're coming.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
My
didn't
God,
even
it's
know
the
they had
best.
technology
I
like
know.
that.
Oh, so cool. There's a lot of cool new tech going on for people who have to ride on the roads. I like to bring those things myself, as well as like my little mirror that I'm used to. So will they allow those things and help you install them and that type of stuff? Good
Okay.
question. Also, really take a look at, is this on gravel? Is it on back roads that don't get much traffic? Or like how often is it on bigger like 2-lane roads, and what are the shoulders like?
Okay.
Because even though, I mean, you know, Europe, like the roads are small. And
Right.
so you have to be, that's one thing that I'm still always getting used to is really cycling on road with lots of traffic passing you kind of stuff. And that's not something that most people would like on a vacation. So you want to get an idea because that stresses most people out,
Yeah.
as it should. Those are some of the things I think.
I feel like the e-bike thing is really interesting because
Yeah.
I wonder if you can ask or if you can switch. Like if you decide
That's
you
a
want to
good
do a
question.
regular bike, can you switch to e-bike? Because my friends that did the one in Ireland, they do a lot of biking, so they decided to not do the e-bike. But everyone else in the group did an e-bike. So like you were
That
saying, like the
affects
people
it.
going up the hills were just like zooming up and then they're,
Yeah.
struggling behind
Yeah.
in the group. A little
It's
bit
a very
challenging.
good question. And there are people that just get there and are like, oh, this is way harder than I thought. Can I switch to an e-bike?
Right.
And that's not that simple. So that's a great question to ask prior. Normally, the group tours, because they've got a trailer with all the bikes on that they're pulling, they can only bring so many extra bikes. So normally, a group tour will have like maybe one extra in case something goes wrong, whatever, and one. So there might not be a chance to switch over,
Right.
basically. So that's a really important one.
Do you feel like there's a sweet spot for group numbers? Like if somebody's kind of
Ooh.
a beginner, would you recommend they be in a certain group size or consider that when they're choosing, or do you feel like they're mostly the same numbers?
No, they're not always the same numbers. Some are much bigger, but there, I think it goes with your same thing as like a hiking tour or anything. Like, how many people do you really want to travel with at once? For me, that number is normally like 12 is max on a small,
Okay.
that's a small group tour to me. But some people call small group tours like 18 people, a different dynamic, if you ask me. So I
It
think,
also affects where you can stay because they
yes,
need to find hotels and accommodations that can fit 18
yeah,
people.
definitely.
Yeah.
And that also reminds me, one of the other things that you can look at that I just learned about on my last trip with Experience Plus was they have a guide, but you don't bike with the guide. So instead, they send a guide out and they put these chalk arrows down and that identifies the route,
Oh, ooh,
basically. And they leave little messages and it's great. It's awesome.
that's cute.
But then what that means is that allows everyone in the group to start whenever they want to start that morning because
Yeah.
they just,
You gotta work at your own pace.
so that was a really different group biking experience because you could just ride your own pace and do whatever. And when you got done, you were done. But then you all ate as a group and so on and
Mhm.
so forth. Whereas a lot of group biking tours, you're going to have a leader and maybe someone in a follow van, and you're all going to be in a line together. So you have to figure out like what sounds more your style. I
Right.
found being able to start when I wanted and just bike off. And I would bike with different, because I was a solo traveler. So I would bike with some people for part of the day, and then I'd end up biking with other people for other part of the day. And sometimes I was completely on my own, and that was fine.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
nice.
Yeah, it was really neat. And that's definitely an Experience Plus thing. I think they're the only ones around Europe, at least, that do the chalk arrows where you
Nice.
just go at your own pace. But your thing about hotels, that's true. It really does matter. And it depends on what kind of trip you're on. Those are small towns that you're stopping in. They don't
Yeah.
have huge hotels. We mentioned that I did this e-bike tour in Patagonia around Torres del Paine, which is such a cool way to see and experience Chilean Patagonia. It's so different because there's no bikers down there because the wind is too heavy. So that's why you have to do e-bikes because that'll cut through the wind. I run that tour also now as one of my tours, and we are very much limited because we're biking from estancia or ranch to ranch, and they're working ranches, and we're staying in like bunkhouses, and we're very much limited on how many people I can put on that tour
Right.
based on the small little places that
Beds.
are authentic. But yeah, so you really
Yeah.
do need to look into that.
Okay.
Yeah. Have either one of
Yeah.
you guys ever done a bike tour yet?
I always say I am not a biking person. My husband's like the Peloton guy, but then there's such a big difference between indoor, stationary
That's very
biking
true.
and not.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, can I go do a walking trip and you do a biking trip and then we can meet up?
Yeah. I'd rather do a walking trip. I think also it kind of leads us into a question about how much training you need to do because like for
Mm.
example, we just went for a bike ride here and did 15 miles down a trail back and got lunch and then
Yeah.
came back. I was hurting so bad on the return trip. I didn't want to sit in my seat.
Yeah.
It was just brutal. You need to build some
Butt
calluses.
muscles. Yeah. For
I don't think
padding.
muscles would have helped. It was
Yeah.
padding, yeah.
Get used to it. Yeah.
So do you find that if somebody's planning one of these trips, should they be biking frequently before they head off, probably at least
I'm
feel
going to say
comfortable?
yes because, but it's the same thing I would say for any adventure trip. So even hiking. So when I run my tours, I always do a phone call with people before they sign up and we talk about training because I don't want to get people there and then have them be miserable. You want them to have fun. Really
Absolutely.
important that people are committed, I think, in any kind of adventure travel to make sure they have time to train for whatever it is that they're going to do. And biking in particular, because it is this thing where, yeah, you're sitting on you can use padding or a padded seat, but it's still going to
Doesn't
bother
help.
me. Like I'm used to being in the saddle for lots and lots of miles, so it doesn't bother me anymore. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely training. And I think one of the biggest risks with biking, we all rode a bike when we were little. And yes, you never really forget. You can always ride a bike. But there's one thing, you can ride a bike, and then there's being comfortable on a bike. And I'm not necessarily
Yeah.
talking about like your sit bones, but your balance, your confidence. I remember when because I started biking during the pandemic. So when I got from the point where I was like necessarily wobbly, but still not confident, to the point where the bike feels like my part of my body. Like it's a weird feeling when you can finally feel like this, it just feels like a natural part of your body. And going through narrow little thing, whatever, doesn't really affect you anymore, where it does if you haven't spent a lot of time on a bike.
Yeah, I'm someone who I don't have the best balance on bikes.
Yeah.
We
That
did a
takes
couple
time.
years ago, like a river cruise, and AMA Waterways is really good about having tons of bike excursions every day. I did a couple of them. And of course, I find myself trying to take some photos or videos as I'm going, and I will go off the road every single time. But you see other people that are just like, one
Yeah.
hand looking backwards, like totally
Yeah.
comfortable. If I take one hand off the handlebars, I'm probably veering
Yeah.
off in a direction I didn't mean to go. So,
I think that's most people, definitely. Even when I ran the e-bike tour down in Patagonia, required as much as I could, but I talked to everyone about you need to spend time on a bike every week. Like you have to be comfortable because the e-bikes are heavy and you're going to be on gravel. So even though they're fat, I did have a lot of beginning bikers in that tour and they did great. I was really impressed. Yeah, but worked on biking before. So
Yeah.
I think that's another thing you can look at when you're looking at different tour companies is it's always hard to figure out what is their support level prior to a trip, right?
Yeah.
These big companies that run tours all over, you're going to get the standard operating
Email.
procedures. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
yeah.
But
90
like,
days out, you'll get email A.
yeah,
60 days
pack
out, you
this
get,
or whatever, but
yeah.
no one's giving you. So I only run like 4 or 5 tours a year. So I want to like talk to everyone before they book. I do a group call a couple months, maybe even further in advance, depending on the training needed. And I have a good friend who's a personal trainer that does virtual training specifically for people going on adventure vacations.
Oh, cool.
It's so
That's
cool. It's
really
such a
special.
cool. So I have her sit in that call typically just to offer advice. And then if people want to really get serious about it, they can hire her or whatever. But
Smart.
there's stuff like that, I think, that can really motivate you because for lots of people, adventure travel is a challenge. They're challenging themselves to go a little bit further or do something different than what they've done before.
We talked a little bit about destinations and some of the things to consider, like elevation. But I feel like destination really drives like a lot of people. Is it probably a romantic idea of biking through certain things?
Like Tuscany.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can say to me, bike through a vineyard, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm all in. But what are some other things people should keep in mind instead of I think some people will be very focused on the biking part and other people will be very focused on the destination part. And it's finding that match, I think.
Yeah, and that's hard, especially if you've never been to that destination before.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'd be scared of rainy places. Like I do
Oh,
not feel
yeah.
confident in rain. Like if there's
Yeah.
rain on the road, I am confident I'm like, I'm good.
I think that would also be a lot of people. And it's just not as enjoyable. You do want it about the season in which you're going somewhere, obviously. I think also it's like anything else. Like I love the biking tours because I feel like then I like to go to places that have destinations known for their food, right? Because I can eat anything after I've biked 30, 40 miles. So
That's a good idea.
oh my God. So like to take a group bike tour through southern France, I ate and drank like you wouldn't believe. Like it was like indulgence that was really fun. So, pick a place that you are going to be working out. So pick a place that you're going to enjoy the food. Or on an e-bike, especially if you're taking an e-bike, I think it's much easier to sometimes enjoy the landscapes. So if that's really important to you. But I also think this comes back to the company that you're going to actually go with. Do your research because there are companies out there. Trek Travel is a good example. Trek is the bicycle company. Trek. They do bike tours, that's for people who are really into cycling. Like it's
More
about the
hardcore
cycle more than it is about the destination.
travel destination.
Yeah, you can get a feel for
That
that.
vibe.
Yeah.
That's a great, yeah, I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
even considered, but I could see that there'd be whether you're on a biking trip or whether you're on a travel destination getting around by bike. It's a
Definitely.
good way to look at it.
Yeah. So it's always ask a lot of questions if it's your first one, or talk to someone who's done stuff before and get their advice, etc.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that one final thing, you mentioned a couple of like asking about adding on your own little gear. So are there any tips on like things people should bring along? And then I know there's something special that Tamara and I both have gotten to try out for you. So, because I do know that's a great
Yeah,
recovery for walking and
it is.
biking.
It
So
is.
you can maybe mention that. But yeah, what kind of extra things do people need to think about when they're for gear related
Just
to these kind
basic
of
things.
trips?
Yeah. Always rain gear. Always rain gear because you never know. I say that on hikes too. But some things that I didn't know about biking is lots of people bring their own helmets, which I didn't do that the
Right.
first time. And they're like, you
Mhm.
don't have a helmet. And I'm like, I thought you provided the helmet. Because on most like day trips or half day trips, you always get a
Yeah.
helmet. And I didn't even
Yeah.
think that this was this like week long group tour. And
You
like,
want one
well,
that really fits you and
yeah,
you're comfortable
yeah.
with.
So now I travel with my bike helmet. I know I'm on a
Smart.
beach. So that's pretty important. Then the other big thing that I always say, because not every company has this, is a mirror. Like, so whatever mirror that you might be used to using
Mhm.
that you can put on the handlebar,
Or on your
some
helmet.
fit on your helmet. Yeah. But I don't know. I think bike safety is so important. And even though bikes have the right to be on the road at any time, you have to be so much more vigilant because the drivers are not going to see you at times. And like, it's just the responsibility is more in your hands as a biker. And that's just the sad truth.
It would probably be
So,
also like your clothes should be bright
yep,
colored and stuff, not
yep.
all black, you know?
No, no,
Yeah.
exactly. I always say like the brighter, the better. I actually work with a women owned cycle kit, they call it
Yep.
cycle kit,
Yep.
company from Iowa that's great. And so they have these really fun, like bright colors. And you
Yeah,
have to
that's
find
good.
that kind of stuff. Those are the two things, like helmet, mirror of some sort, are probably my two biggest pieces that I would recommend.
That's
And
good.
yeah,
Yes. And then for recovery to help you get through that week of biking
yeah.
after biking after biking, which
Uh,
Tamara had a taste of with her walking trip she did, multi-day walking trip.
oh,
But yeah,
yeah.
how do you recover? And so that you get up the next morning and keep going.
I know, because you have to do this every day. You have to get on that bike again. I was always a big proponent of compression socks. So, compression socks for travel, for long haul flights, but also, as I think we're all learning and being more educated on, is that compression leg wear is great for recovery. You'll also see like triathletes and stuff wearing
Yeah.
them as they run. It will give your legs more energy. It will help them recover faster. It'll keep down swelling. They're just great. And so
Yeah.
that's what I wear all the time for recovery. And I'll say how I got into the compression leg wear
Yeah.
stuff was through travel because, gosh, probably in 2018 or so, I was on a long haul flight from Newark to India, traveling with one of my nieces. And unbeknownst to me, I contracted blood clots on that long haul flight in my calves. And while we were in India, I didn't know any of this at all. I just knew that something was off, but I didn't, anything could be off in India, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So there were a lot of things that I'm like, oh, it's the pollution, it's the heat, it's the whatever. And while I was in India, those blood clots broke loose from my legs and lodged in my lung. I didn't know that either. I got back on my flight to come back to Denver with them in my lungs. Arrived here, did not feel well. I was feeling worse and worse, and I was starting to have trouble breathing. And of course, I thought it was bronchitis because of pollution. And I finally went into the urgent care, and I was diagnosed with 3 pulmonary emboli in my left lung.
So scary.
Yeah.
So scary.
So the fact that I survived was a miracle, but there was
Yeah.
a lot of things that I learned, and that one of them is get up and walk every 2 hours, which now I do all the time.
Yeah.
Don't drink or do little alcohol and match that with twice as much water, right? Because dehydration is a huge piece. One really important piece that I totally didn't know, and is probably of interest to any women watching this is if you're on any kind of hormone therapy, whether it's birth control, hormone therapy, whatever, you are automatically at a higher risk for blood clots. So at that time, I was on a low dose estrogen for hot flashes, didn't even think about it. So that added to it. And then, so be aware, I guess. And then the other thing is wear compression leg wear, because that right there is probably some of your best defense. Getting up and drinking water, eating.
Sounds great.
Yeah, obviously, ever since.
Yeah.
A big advocate because I think more people need to know about it. I'm not that old. It can happen to anyone. And then because of that, I became partners with this really great female-owned company out of Montana called Vim and Vigor that just do compressions. And they do really cute ones. They use stripes and animals and different stuff all the time. But so I've been an ambassador for them for a long time now. But they never had a travel-themed sock. So this summer, we co-designed travel-themed compression sock. So that's what you...
So
Yeah.
cute. Yeah.
We have some.
I'm waiting
I'll-
for you to pull them out. And I
Oh,
realized I should have brought them in.
I was like, mine are in my
shoot.
backpack, which is downstairs.
Yeah.
When we do this on, we will have to insert a photo of.
Yeah, we'll insert the photo. So if you're watching,
I know,
on
I'm
YouTube,
not
you can see
prepared.
'em. And then we can tell everyone, because we'll wrap out. So why don't you just tell everyone where they can find you online, and then they can see and find the socks
Yeah.
via one of your sites as well. So
Absolutely.
let our listeners know where they can find you.
You can find me on OttsWorld.com. That's my same blog that I've had for 18, 19 years. You can also find me on Instagram under OttsWorld, OttsWorld, as well as Facebook. Those are really the only two social media places I am. And then I also have a newsletter that I send out where I talk about a lot of these different things, as well as my own adventure tours that I run, travel gear, that type of stuff for adventure. So yeah, those are the best places to find me. And then on the site, you'll also find packing lists where the sock is included and so on, and the whole story of the blood clots.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be wearing my socks this coming weekend as I fly to Paris.
Yeah.
Good,
Nice.
good. I hope you like them. They're not your boring, they're not
They're
your
cute.
beige socks,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Very
yeah.
cute.
Yeah, very cute.
Yeah.
Very cute. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing. I'm
Thank
excited to
you.
kind of introduce people to different ways of traveling. And so I'm really happy to get an expert like you on to share a
Thank
biking.
you.
Thanks
Thanks for
so much,
having me. This
Sherry.
was so much fun. Love
Thank
this.
you. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and rate and review on your favorite podcast app, as that helps other people discover us. And if you want to see more, follow me, Tamara, at Your Time to Fly on Instagram and Facebook and all the others.
And you can follow me, Kim, at Stuff Suitcase on Instagram, Facebook, and of course my blog.